I hope your week has been good, and I believe that you're going to order, the Lord is going to order the remaining part of the week in the right direction, so that your steps will be ordered and you will go in the right direction. And it's the same thing that we are praying for this country and also the leadership of this country, so that as we take the steps that we are taking as a country, we're going to end up in the right direction. At least this week there were no demonstrations. It was a peaceful week. But there's a lot that is happening. The leaders doing their things and playing cards. We saw the vetting of CSS that started yesterday. The most interesting thing is that some of the CSS have made more than 150 million, an increase from the time they were appointed, just almost 2 years from the time they were appointed. This is an amazing rate of increase in income for a period less than 2 years, to make 150 million shillings. So the $1 million question is, how did you make this money? You must be a brilliant person selling oil to be able to do this. And we'll be looking at that. Plus there's an impeachment that is being planned from one Deputy President, Rigathi Gachagua.
Geoffrey, yes.
The voice you can hear saying Geoffrey at the back is George Ngaire. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
And I have Pastor David Moth with us in the studio.
Thank you very much, Fred.
Interesting time we are living in. And these guys, the CSS, truly need to train us on the art of making money. Because if you can make 150 million shillings in a period, in a period less than 2 years, you must be a brilliant businessman.
Absolutely. And I think, Fred, this is where African countries, and I think even Kenya as part of the African continent, is where we fail when it comes to holding our leaders into account. It's amazing that a public servant who does not even manufacture a matchstick can make such fortune in less than 12 or 18 months. Largely, you can tell, because in this country, Fred, there are only two ways in which you can tell how you made your money. It's either through your salaries or return dividends from business. So if you can't show us your pay slip, you can at the very least show us your net profits that you gain from your business, to show us how you made $1 million. You know, 100 million is $1 million. And I think it still goes to show that probably the perception that has been over the years, that probably the easiest way to get rich is through the public service.
And that's a very unfortunate.
It's unfortunate because in countries which are considered developed, if you go to the UK and the US, the richest people are not the politicians. That's why President Obama, despite being president, is not a billionaire. You can understand. And yet he was a president for 2 full terms. You would expect
of the greatest. They call their country the greatest country in the world, or the biggest and the biggest economy,
which is now sitting at 21 trillion shillings. 21 trillion dollars. You know, the GDP of such a country. So any president that runs such a country in the African continent ought to be $1 billion and above as we speak. But obviously, because of strong institutions and how leaders are held into account, that's why they're able to be contained. But just look at what has happened with our nominees. Some of them very new. I saw my sister Deborah Barasa also declaring some huge amounts, and I realized I'm the poorest lawyer alive. Because where was I when
all this money was being made?
Where was I when Deborah was making these hundreds of millions? And this is a new player, you know, most people don't quite know him. And I think we still have a chance with Parliament. I'm hoping that Parliament can shock us and deliver some no's in some of these cabinet nominees, because surely if these are the people that are supposed to transform this country, people that our very own president has already admitted that are incredibly incompetent. He said some of them don't even know what happens in the departments. You know, that was the president's statement. And he's still bringing back into cabinet. It means our lives are at stake. So I look forward to see what the Parliament's reaction will be to it.
David, here I see Professor Kithure Kindiki, when he first declared, it was at 544 million.
Yes.
In less than 2 years, he's now at 694.
Yes.
Alice Wahome was at 318 million. And in less than 18 months, she's at 327. Miss Soipan Tuya was at 156 million. She's now at 243 million. You know, it get me asking, what kind of business are these guys doing?
Thank you very much, Fred. Can I make it easier for the viewer so that they see the magnitude of what we are talking about? Like Kindiki, he is saying on every single month from the time he got into the government, he has been making 7.5 million on top.
Every month?
Every month, so that he can be where he is talking about in terms of 150 million. So on average, these guys are actually talking of a 5 million every other month. And we know their salary, by the way.
Yes.
Their salary is allowed $1 million.
Yes.
But you can see what now they are talking about in terms...
Kindiki was saying his law firm is the one that has made...
But it ought to have made him now. He should even be talking about several billions. If that law firm... If, for example, the law firm is making him to get 150 million in 20 months, then it means from the time he started operating, we should not be talking about half a billion.
He should be in the billions.
He should be talking about billions. Let me show you something which happens. And I think that's why we have been saying the government is very wasteful. Every month, a member of parliament, leave alone even the CSs, and even for them, I know they are actually having the same packs. You find that every month, the member of parliament is getting a 2 million allowance. 2 million allowance. Every month, 2 million allowance for fuel. You are actually being given a 2 million. If you are not actually residing in Nairobi, you are in Thika, you are in Migori, you are from where George comes from, 2 million is actually given. That is not money to be accounted for.
Imagine.
It is money that actually
it is assumed you're using it for fuel.
Yeah, for fuel.
Yes.
And you can imagine how many of the people, of these people, actually even go and visit even the areas. So you see what is happening is that why you find the politicians all the times they are fighting. And we keep on asking. And this now answers the question we have been asking. We have been asking, why is it that MP can be able to spend 20 million for him to go to parliament, and you are asking yourself, his salary for 1 million, if we are even talking about 1 year, is just 12 million.
Yes.
If we are talking about 5 years, it's 60 million. So look at what we are talking about. And you know, you are actually asking, that is gross. It is not net. So we are asking ourselves, why is it that they keep on fighting for all these things? But it is because there is a lot of wastefulness. Many people are actually in the government to eat. And that's what George has said, that in Kenyan politics, it is get there to eat. And that's where you will find that people will actually rally together. And that's why you can see, even they are shameless in terms of they can even be given 10,000 to vote for a bill, which is not good. These guys are totally corrupt. And I think this is the time that we are saying, and that's why Gen Zs were talking about. They were talking about the kind of corruption that is in this country. Because I can tell you, this does not add up. It doesn't add up at all.
Because I'd like to know what kind of business Alice Wahome does that would, you know, basically take her net worth from 218 million to 327 million.
You know, Fred, any Kenyan who is earning anything in this country, legally it's not very hard to track the source of his money. Because anybody that earns over and above 15,000 people is eligible to pay tax, which is called the minimum wage. That means every other person that earns above 15,000 shillings should be on record. And we can tell what the tax returns were. Assuming Kindiki's law firm made 100 million, then we expect the tax returns to show that, because his salaries is known. Clearly is not 100 million. You know, maybe he makes 12 million and 12 to 15 million if you're earning an average of $1 million a month. So the last 18 months should be around 18 million. And remember, he's a family man, and there's people that are dependents. So he couldn't have saved the entire million, the entire million shillings to declare as net profits. You understand? So and this is what we have to live with, because and the Kenyans have to make very difficult decisions about. Is because if we continue with this kind of attitude and culture in the management of our affairs, Fred, then clearly at some point, knowing where we are now on the issue of national debt and the cost of even just running government and the kind of allocation that we're getting in terms of development budget, which is very minor, we might take forever to reach the kind of goals that we have as a country. Remember, President Kibaki gave us something called the Vision 2030. We were supposed to be somewhere within by 2030, and we're only 5 years away. And some of those millennium goals, the target strategic goals by the Vision 2030, a few of them, they've attempted to accomplish them, you know, especially on the infrastructure front, but it has come at an extremely expensive cost, and that's why we're talking of 10 trillion shillings in debt. And so I hope Kenyans, and beginning with our parliamentarians, can be patriotic enough to first of all see off this kind of cabinet. Majority of these cabinet members are not even supposed to be back in cabinet. But it's unfortunate, because then we, as it seems, people have already assumed that these are people that are supposed to that are most likely will end up in cabinet.
They definitely will. I mean, the setup in parliament today.
It's a musical chair. There's nothing much.
There's nothing much.
When you look at the select panel, clearly you can almost predict. And that's why this parliament needs to be shaken again. We shake it a little bit again, so that people can know that they're supposed to represent the people. I have my friends, you know, Governor Paranya is one of the cabinet nominees.
Yes.
Going to a very interesting Ministry of Cooperative and SMEs. Yes. And a lot of his friends who are also my friend. I'm really looking forward to it, that I was even asking him, why are you really in opposition, or is it just because it was too cold enough? Because they're really looking forward to it. And
they're looking forward to him getting to...
Absolutely. They're telling me, well, we can't wait. Well, it's time to get us voting. And that's the challenge that we have as a people, and the type of leadership that we have. But Fred, I'm still hoping there can be a little miracle from the parliamentarians, so that they can send back a few names that are on these cabinet nominees. Yeah.
But can I tell you,
yes,
Fred?
Yes, David.
What is happening? And I can tell you, and I can bet. And if you are EACC, they can hear me. I can just get a clue for all what is happening in these ministries. All the monies, the tenders that we talk about, they are done by these guys through proxy. You find that I am in agricultural ministry, and there is this one is in energy. My proxy will go to agriculture, and this other proxy will go to the energy. Yes. So what will be happening? It is government working with government.
Yeah, you can't track me.
Yeah, it is actually the other people. Yeah. You do the tender and you are never paid. But these guys are paid immediately. Because, you know, they know everything. Can you imagine, even when the tender is coming out, the people who have a lot of information is actually these same guys. And you find, and actually, there is one, I don't want to mention the person here, but there is one guy, he is actually was from the Northeastern, but he is the one who was doing the roads with his company in Meru. Then the guy from Meru, he is actually given the tenders
in Northeastern.
In Northeastern. This is actually what is happening in this government. That it is man-eat society, whereby you don't care what is happening. And you'll be always, if you look for this person, you'll never find them.
Yes.
But they have a proxy. And this is where the money is coming to them. Because I can tell you, it is not actually something which is feasible that every person is increasing in 100 million, 100 million. It is not possible. It is because they are the people actually who are enjoying our money. We are actually paying. And these tenders, they are overpaid. They are actually made to, you know, some few things, and you are guided. This is, don't put your tender until the last day. We'll check on all the other tenders. So on the page for the financial, leave it open. And during the time that it is almost like 10 minutes before you finish.
When all the other statistics, financials have been declared.
They have known. Yes. And you are actually told now, put this figure.
Yes.
And you get it. So this is exactly what is happening in this government. It is actually a very corrupt government. And I can tell you, I would want to see quite a number of these guys. It is even good that we are seeing what we are seeing, like Akina Kidiki, because it is opening up what has been happening in the government.
Yes.
I would also want to see, like the president, where he is. I would want to see quite a number of people, even the chief Prime Minister, Cabinet Secretary.
Yes.
I would want
He started at 4 billion.
He was at 4 billion.
Yes.
Right now, I can tell you, he is a double billionaire, most likely. Maybe he is talking about 8 billion. These guys, actually, they are the people who are enjoying Kenya.
Yes.
But I can tell you, time is coming. Because, and that's why you can see there is a change in terms of what is happening. Because it is very unfortunate. You went to serve people, but it is not actually making their life to be difficult.
Now in terms of leadership, because our parliamentarians are supposed to be our leaders, in the sense that, you know, the questions we are asking here are the questions they are supposed to have been asking and really probing. And probably, you know, have EACC going to ask those questions, to look at the books. How did you make 100 million less than 2 years? And it's all of them. So in terms of leadership quality, what are we saying about the vetting committee that is now being chaired by, you always like saying, this one comes from my community. It's being chaired by the Speaker of the National Assembly.
I am telling you, it was interesting.
Who comes from your area.
Absolutely, it was interesting actually seeing him vet the CS for health and asking her, what are you worth? You know, I don't know if you saw that day. And Fred, it just goes back to what we've been discussing for a very long time, which is the issue of structures and culture, Fred. That we lack institutions. We actually have the legal institutions, and they know their mandate and the kind of things they're supposed to do. EACC is supposed to be at the heart of this panel, because when you go into public service, you do something called wealth declaration, and you give an account of what you own at the time when you're getting to public service. And so it's not very hard to compare what you owned then and what you own now. And it's not very hard for KRA to even just give us a track record of your income history since you started earning at least anything above the minimum wage. That means now you're in the tax base, as David would call it. And so because of weak institutions, structures are there, but then the institutions are very weak. We then find ourselves in such a situation where we appear helpless, even though we have institutions that are actually supposed to help us. And it's not just the EACC. We have many other institutions that are actually supposed to check on the integrity of these individuals that are being given public appointments. Fred, we have a whole chapter on leadership and integrity in our constitution, and we didn't put it there as a beauty, as a prop to make our constitution look nice. No, it was supposed to help us to actually be able to hold such leaders into account, so that when you come and tell us you're worth $500 million, and we only know you've been a public servant the last 10 years, and at most you've had is 120 million with dependents, you need to show how the other money came in. But you see, for as long as our country would continue, and this is why I liked the Gen Z movement. At some point, I feel like we have now people that can hold public servants into account without necessarily expecting anything from them, because they're just standing by by what they believe in. I saw a very interesting video, and later on I discovered it was not in Kenya, it was somewhere in Ghana, but it was a politician who was gone back to his village, and he had carried a truck of full of sacks of rice, and he was supposed to give people a packet of rice. So when the young men saw that, they took the sacks and were returning it back to the truck and tell them, we don't want rice, we want jobs. You know, because they were looking at futuristic optimistic in their mind. And so if we can continue to develop such kind of a population, then we might end up with the kind of leaders who then can allow the institutions, Fred, which we have in plenty. David, I don't think we are short of institutions.
No, they are so.
We have institutions that are,
Yes.
we have enough institutions to actually hold everybody in this country, those in public service and those in private service, into account. But then it's just a political goodwill because of the problem at the top. One of the things that made the late President Magufuli to be very effective was because at the top of the institution there was somebody who meant business. So everybody else down the road,
Yes, you knew the
had to play in.
Yes.
Because we still have the culture of Kubwa. No, so we have people who know their responsibilities and what they're supposed to do, but they are tied with this element of ni ya mkubwa ama mkubwa amesema hivi.
Yes.
And so they find very challenging people. I was telling somebody, every time I look at I see the Kenyans debating, and now that we have these digital spaces and people are debating, and you see people saying, oh, why can't we get so and so to become part of this government so that he can help this president to advise. The president has a problem with the advisors. I'm blaming them. I tell them, look, you need to go to the Ministry of Planning there. Fred, there are guys there who've been to Harvard, to Yale, and extremely informed. I was at the the Directorate for Public-Private Partnerships for our own separate project. And I went there. There are people there who understand finance big time. They've been to Harvard Business School. They know what is supposed to be done. That's why it would be interesting, Fred, David, to see what our friend Mbadi would do at the ministry. Because Mbadi has many a times...
He is from your party, man.
He is from my party. It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see my party member, John Mbadi, how he can explain the bottom-up economic theory and then bring the reforms in the treasury, which he has for years said it has not worked. You know, he opposed the tax proposals. He's opposed all these kind of amendments that have been done by the Treasury. And now he's going to be the CS of Treasury, where he has to now effect the very many good ideas that Mbadi was giving us, isn't it?
Yes.
But you see, he's surrounded by sharks and a cabinet of 22 people with only 4 people to vote for him. It will be a real struggle, not unless the president really means business and allows him to work. I've realized President, I don't know if David, you've noted this. President William Ruto in that treasury is really tapping talents from the West. When you look at the guy who is now in charge of the debt management directorate, some guy from the West, and he's really flooded them around that place. I don't know whether it's because he has now found new trust in our people, but I'm hoping it's because of competence that he believes that these people can be able to bring the kind of reforms that are needed at treasury, because that is where really we have the biggest problem.
If we get it right at Treasury,
yes,
in the sense that we get it right without necessarily putting a heavy burden on the citizenry and in the corporates, companies, manufacturers, then we'll have gotten it right.
Actually,
as in that's where everything rotates on.
Actually, let me say, John Mbadi, I schooled with him.
Oh, okay.
Actually, John Mbadi is my buddy. Actually, from in campus. We were the same year in the university.
Yes.
And I can tell you that guy is brilliant.
He's brilliant.
He is very brilliant. Actually, in terms of the selection, which has been done from the ODM, there are some few people who are actually have the capacity. And I would say John Mbadi is one of the guys who actually understands what he is talking about. One of the things which I have liked about John Mbadi is the fact that he knows exactly that there is actually, you can be able to make money without overtaxing the people. And actually, repeatedly, he has said about it. It is how you expand the tax base. And you make sure that everybody is just paying a portion. And you know, when you actually now make the, you know, we call it justice.
Yes.
That people everybody must be paying what they really need to be paying. And with that, you find that you are making more money and also you are reducing in terms of the exposure. Because many businesses are now closing because of the issue that they have been overtaxed. Look at how many taxes are there. So I think in terms, he has started it right. If actually he is vetted in, I know he will.
Yes.
But I know there are so many challenges, but I am very positive
That he'll do something.
Yeah, I'm very positive that something good is going to happen. It may not be easy, but I think I like this man now in the sense that he understands the economics behind the economy. And you see, I can only equate John Buddy with one gentleman called Didi Nyoro.
Yes.
Let it give to Didi Nyoro also.
Yeah.
These two gentlemen are people who understand economy into its depth. They already know where to hit and where to withdraw. These are some of the good things. But let me say, all this is good.
Yes.
But I can tell you it is political. And I will tell you how political it is.
Yes.
One of the things that the government, Kenya Kwanza, has done, there are two dockets they have actually removed from themselves, which are some of the pains in the government. Number one is treasury.
Yes.
And what has happened is that these people who are actually the Kenya Kwanza, they want at least a relief. And they will be saying, now, and you know it's you know ODM is my party also. Me and George. Yes. They will be saying it is ODM which is managing the affair for treasury.
Yeah.
So when you are talking about this, someone from the ODM will actually fear to shoot or to throw a stone.
Yes.
Because you see, it is like you are throwing a stone to your glass house.
Yes.
So that is one of the things that it in a very clever way. The president is very clever in this sense. That he has at least removed a very big burden. The other burden,
energy.
The other burden is energy.
Yes.
Energy has also been one of the biggest issues. Right now, I can tell you, Opio Wadai, he is actually coming to a docket. You see, like the way the president, the Kashagwa was saying that we found empty coffers.
Yes.
Let me tell you, what Opio is one of the guy who is going to land into his office, and one of the things he has to deal with is 7 bob. That was actually increased, which was not done in the right way.
Yes.
So let me tell you, the government, what it has done, I know it is more political.
Yes.
And that's why you have seen the government, there are some position. Many people are asking, like Mount Kenya are asking, how can you give the most powerful? Because the most powerful, treasury is a very powerful docket.
Yes.
Energy is a very powerful docket. But let me tell you, where the president was, he realized, I would rather now pass this
baton. Let me throw the hot potato to this guy.
To another person.
Let them deal with it.
Yeah, but I think there is a lot of hope. There are some people, I may not comment about them.
Yes.
Mining and the blue ocean economy. I don't want really to say so much, many things about it.
Yeah. Yes.
And but I think the only challenge I have, like, and I feel it.
Yes.
I guess Oparanya was not a bad bet.
Oparanya would have expected him to go into
the
treasury.
EACC is actually, I don't know whether even he has been approved because of some few issues.
Yes.
But I can tell you, Oparanya, and George is here, he comes from that region, he can say, Oparanya has done some legacy program when he was a governor. And some of the things which is happening in Kakamega right now, I believe Oparanya contributes a very big deal to it.
Yes.
So in terms of looking at the people who have been put there, even the AG right now, Oduor, these people actually, they are actually, that's what George is talking about. They are people who have the brain, they have the capacity.
30 years in that office.
So actually,
knows institutional memories, knows his ways.
So what has happened actually, I am still feeling there are some few people who are corrupt, but if the guys who have been brought, especially from my party, I tell you, these guys from my party, too many I think that there are people who are able to move some few things. So there is hope.
There's this group from Azimio.
Yes.
You're talking about Kalonzo Musyoka.
Yeah.
You're talking about Eugene Wamalwa, Jeremiah Kioni. And who else? Martha Bolton.
Yes.
Munya.
There's Munya. Some of them basically add, apart from their family, they don't add anything in terms of number. They have said that they are going to fight the nomination, and at the same time, that same team is backing one deputy president, Rigathi Gachagua, who talks are rife that there may be an impeachment process that is going to be started against him, and they've said they will defend him.
Yeah.
Would the Eugene Wamalwas of this world really have the muscle capacity to defend Rigathi Gachagua from impeachment on the floor of the House?
Obviously, politically, on the floor of the House, they do not have the numbers because ODM and UDA outnumber a majority of the other leaders. It's well over and above 200. If ODM can top up its 90 MPs, 86 or 90 or something like that, and UDA is over 100, so we surely have a majority. But you see, Fred, the political ramifications of that on the outside is what we should look at. And I think even from where I sit, Honorable Geoffrey Rigathi Gachagua, a lot of people forget that, from Nyeri, has already calculated his numbers. He's a real businessman. He has the highest stamina, more than all these other characters you're talking combined.
Yes.
And I think the attitude to fight back, he has also the highest, more than any of these characters. Yes. And luckily then he has also the resources to be able to fight this government. And if talks, the rumors that the allegations that we have, allegedly, the information that we have, that it is backed by former president and the other Mount Kenya billionaires, then anybody that underrates Gachagua, then will be making a terrible mistake, Fred.
I'm made to understand the likes of Theuri, some of these people from his office have been summoned and questioned concerning the demonstrations, meaning the state believes he's the one who was behind them.
And Fred, the problem is this. Every time this president and this government makes a mistake of not looking at where the source of the problem is, it worsens the situation. If somebody comes and steals from me an item and disappears, and now I've come to you for help, and instead of addressing the theft, you focus on saying, where was I when it was being stolen? You're diverting the issue.
Yes.
The reason why young men went to the streets are very clear. And the issues as to what the issues they wanted addressed were very clear. This government has failed to do that because what it has addressed is a political solution.
Yes.
Yet what they were addressing was economic and social issues. Yes. They're saying these are the strict differences we have with the system, and these are the personal issues that we want addressed as a people. That's why they're addressing issue of unemployment and many other things. This president has not sorted that. And so even this issue of Rigathi Gachagua is that the president must now admit the people that supported him from Rigathi's region are no longer the same, David. People, a big chunk of them have changed their minds. Nobody believed that when we were getting to this election, the last election, 2022, nobody actually believed that Central Kenya could actually deviate some of its votes. And it deviated. That's why we had David, another 1 million people that voted for Raila Odinga. Yes. And now there's a section of those who are, because of failed promises, who have equally changed their minds, and that might be double that amount. So this president must admit that going forward, if he still plans and banks on this region as one of his vote base, the last thing they would want to do is the kind of things they're telling me are happening in Gashagua's office. Because a deviation for a president that only won with 200,000 votes, you cannot afford a deviation of 1 million votes. Isn't it?
True.
Politically, is not smart. So he would leave. Uhuru Kenyatta was not stupid to allow this President William Ruto to be in office all that long. Yes. He could have kicked him out, you know that. And Azimio then had the numbers to actually impeach this president. They only needed 233. And the president at most had 30 or 40 MPs who were sycophants. They could have impeached him. But he looked at the political consequences of that and then decided to, let me just allow him to roam around as we mind our business. And I think this president should pick clue from President Uhuru Kenyatta, and I think he has to some extent, because I still see Rigathi in cabinet meetings and a few appearances here and there, even though it's now very clear to Kenyans that these people are no longer speak the same language. Rigathi Gachagua, from where I sit, Fred, has made his decision. Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua will chart his own political path.
And he seems to be going with Kalonzo.
And the numbers make sense. That's that's a number that that's a project I'd love to work on. If you can tell me you have 4 million here and 2 million here, it means you're starting the head start of 6 million votes, isn't it? Yeah, so that's a realistic ticket. And I don't know what happens to my beloved party, ODM, because we are sure of President William Ruto going into the race. And now it's very clear that Rigathi and Kalonzo might be on the ticket. And the numbers make sense. And so and most likely it might be Rigathi backing Kalonzo to sort of camouflage in between there and control power.
Yes.
And that would be a massive game changer, because then they might have just created a big third ticket, assuming ODM will be on the ballot as well. And that could change our fortunes in terms of the dynamics of 2027. Anybody who thinks 6 million votes are a joke, I think is daydreaming, and probably this president and many of his people are daydreaming if they think that that is something to play around. From where I sit, President, and very quickly, Fred, President William Ruto should move away from Rigathi and just allow him to...
Just let him be.
Yeah, this thing of... I mean, it becomes very obvious if you begin to have a problem with this guy here, and then the next thing I hear, David has been called, the next thing Fred has been called. To be very clear in my mind, it's me you're looking for, isn't it?
Yes.
So all these characters, they're saying they're interviewing and things like that. I saw Nelson Koech saying that you're going to look back at the CCTVs and jail and arrest everybody that was still demonstrating.
That's not possible.
It's not possible, and you know, it just has a political effect to it. It brings enmity. People have accepted and moved on. That was a very narrow escape for this president. And anybody that is wise would want the bygones to be bygones and not go back to the very people that almost threw you out. Those young men could have sent this president home. It was a narrow escape for him. And I think his political advisors need to work on that so that he can survive. Because I don't know where this president will get another political base if he happens to lose Central Kenya. Because the Rift Valley has at most 2 million votes. That can definitely not make him a president.
David?
Well, let me just start by echoing the words of a wise man, because I consider him to have been a very wise man. Honorable Michuki the late. He said one thing, and that thing that he said, it keeps on ringing in my head. He said, if you rattle a snake,
be prepared
to be beaten by it. Let me say, all what we are seeing in Gachagua is actually his own creation. Even as today, Gachagua has not gotten to a level of like leaving his local politics. And that's why everybody keep on actually, and he keeps on saying that when I speak...
and he calls himself a villager.
People tell me that I am tribal. When I speak in my language, people call me a villager and a tribal. Let me tell you, it is the demeanor that you put. Right now, he has not put a demeanor of being a national figure. And you can look at it. When Honorable Raila goes to Kikuyu, to Mount Kenya, they see him as a leader who can be a leader for a country. But you see, for example, right now, there is a time that, and you know, you remember even Biwott told President Ruto, that wewe ni mkubwa. You
stop dealing with this.
Yeah, we don't deal with these kind of things. Now he goes even to Left Valley and he is telling people, stay in your own region. You know, there are some few things that actually he brings. It is like he wants people to be cocooned.
He's dealing village.
Yeah, he is actually having a village mentality. And I can tell you, I agree with George to some extent that actually like Mount Kenya is actually having a very wide, you know, in terms of the voting power. You cannot actually do away with it. But I can tell you, the combination that we have right now, do you know actually why Kalonzo is actually not with Raila where he is? Is for his own political interest. There is nothing more.
It's political interest.
Yes, I can tell you, today, if Kalonzo exited, the same way like Mother Karua, you know, like Mother Karua has nothing to lose. If she exited from the Azimio, she is not actually say having some committee in the parliament or in the other place. So for her and the PNU,
the impact is very minimal.
But for Kalonzo, and for Kioni, you know, they have their people in those committees. So at the end of the day, if they bolted, you know what will happen? Is the constitution will kick. And what will happen is that those positions will go to the second, you know, the biggest in terms of the opposition. And it is ODM. It is ODM. So these guys are actually where they are by fate.
In the sense that they don't want to bolt, because if they bolt, they lose the positions that were given to their members
through the Azimio.
Even now, even more, Fred.
Yes.
You know, the NADCO report has proposed the creation of office of the leader of opposition.
Yes.
Which is going to be a government-funded institution. And
Kalonzo already sees himself there.
and it's one of the bills that are actually coming into parliament.
Yes.
Correct. 8 or 9 bills.
Yes.
So Kalonzo is fully aware, and to top up, and David is right. Besides just the committees of parliament, he's fully aware that we need to have a beneficiary of that position.
Yes.
And I think Kalonzo is fully aware of that. So he can't exit like Martha because he starts to lose.
Correct.
And so, and McHugh, with Raila Odinga heading to the AU,
Yes.
and Martha now bolting, Martha would have been the automatic recipient
Correct.
of
Yes.
that
That is the
position.
thing.
Because most people do not know, Martha and Raila did not run on ODM or NARC Kenya.
Yes, they ran on Azimio.
party.
Yes.
Azimio is also a party.
Yes.
So he becomes, which is now the leading second coalition.
Correct.
Based on coalition agreements. So she ought to be the beneficiary of that position automatically. And this is where I like Martha.
Yes.
She can have so many other weaknesses, but when it comes to standing her grounds on principle,
Yes.
I think she has proven it time and
True.
again.
Correct.
She would have just stuck around because Raila exits in January,
Yes.
retires from politics.
Yes.
The bill comes in, we have a
And
new
she
office, becomes the leader of opposition.
Yes.
But I guess from where she sits, she believes that does not serve a purpose. She has exited. But you see, there's a provision that the coalition can nominate
Yes.
a person to that office.
Yes.
And that then creates a window for who next. And like I'll tell you, or Kanesa.
But you see, the thing is, and that's why I can tell you, all these things, by the way, Fred,
Yes.
it is pure politics. There is nothing for you.
Yeah, there's no principle, there's nothing. It's
there is
just
nothing.
interest.
By the way, that's why you can see, and that's why I wanted to go to George. Let me tell you, never go to bed with Kalonzo.
Yes.
In quotes.
Yes.
Yeah.
He is one man who would actually, you remember the other time that Uhuru went, and Kalonzo was actually talking so many bad things about Uhuru.
Yes.
And when they went for the value of
Yes.
the father,
Yes.
you remember what Kalonzo said?
Yes.
I will never,
Yes.
never in life
Yes.
leave Uhuru.
Yeah.
I will stick with him
Yes.
to the end.
Yes.
But I am telling you, they keep on shifting. Every other time, when they look at something and they see, this can benefit me, I am telling you. But Kalonzo has the history.
Yes.
He can actually move from anything to anywhere. So he is not one man that you can trust that he is going to go. In fact, I am telling you,
Yes.
Rigathi Gachagua,
Yes.
one of the things that he must be very careful about
Yes.
is that they are going together with Kalonzo.
Yes.
Kalonzo, he actually looks at the mood at the moment. And when he sees this, the mood is going this way,
He
the
jumps
wind
in.
is swinging this way,
Yes.
he can automatically swing very fast. And you know, they also the other danger, which is actually with the Kalonzo and Rigathi ticket. If you had Rigathi talk about Kalonzo, another day they were at Nyahururu, either Nyahururu or somewhere.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah,
what
I
he
remember.
said?
Yes.
He said, hawa ni watu wetu.
Yes.
Eh?
Yes.
And you know, and he said, when you speak our language, he understands it all. When he speaks my language, he understands it. So you know what is happening? It is again that Kaloko politics. And that is where now the issue is. For them to bring out that this is actually a leader, they are leaders who can be trusted nationally.
Yes.
It is actually a very difficult work. They have a very hard work to do because it is just like Eastern and Mount Kenya. Literally, they are just like one bag.
True.
Yeah.
So you see, it is like a politics for a certain region.
Yeah.
So what will happen is, at the end of the day, you look at now Raila where he is, and you look at the Ruto where he is. Actually, for them, like now, what is happening? You see, Mombasa accepts them.
Yes.
100%.
They've actually been received.
It was shocking.
Yes. so you see, look,
After demonstrations,
Yes.
vehicles being banned,
Yes.
Ruto must go.
Yeah.
And then one decision.
Yeah. It
And
makes-
he goes there and he's received like the king.
you know that is the power, and that's why we say, this man, Honorable Raila,
Yes.
never ever underestimate Sometimes people actually wonder, why does he make all these things? And you know, they said, a man can see far when he is seated than young men who are on the top of the tree.
Yes.
Let me say, this man has been in politics for a very long time.
He knows all the corners and the blind spots.
And you know, whatever he did, let's talk about it.
Yes.
This week has been peaceful.
Yes.
You may like it,
yes.
You may hate it.
Yes.
But even the Gen Zs have looked and said, this, we need to sit down and recalculate.
Yes.
And recalculate. Because when now the Luto and Laila are together, it's
an indomitable force.
Right now we are only seeing Kalonzo, and like now we look at, in fact, like Kioni.
Yes.
In Mount Kenya.
Yeah. what value does he have? Does he have any force? Because I listened to Munya, and you know, I got shocked. He was saying, even if I'm offered a position by the government, I would not take it. And I sat back and I asked myself, Munya, what makes him think that any person is thinking of giving him a position? Eugene Wamalwa. Eugene has absolutely no muscle, no influence in his place.
Yeah.
I know Governor Natembeya won through his party, but Governor Natembeya is almost 1,000,000 times bigger and more influential than Eugene Wamalwa. Yes.
And even more viable as a leader. And I think, Fred, the revelation of the events that have happened this week and the turning point of Raila Odinga just goes to show you how much those who around him have largely been riding on his political capital.
Yes.
Because many of them have not invested the kind of investment he's done in politics over the years. Reputation and commitment to a cause.
Yes.
Which is what has built him the brand that he has.
Yes.
Because then he has shown over the years. Remember, Raila Odinga was one of the only second person to actually resign from office and go back to an election.
Yes.
And this was during times and still won. You can imagine how risky it was.
Yes.
You know, when you're going against government, you might lose even in your own village.
Yes.
Where you can count the votes, that this is my father, this is my grandmother, and I'm expecting 9 votes. But the results can be different because of time. True or false? True. Especially in those days of Kanu, you know, now it's more modern, the electoral laws are more wider, and accountability, you can easily protect your vote. But these are Kanu times when you even did Mlolongo.
And you can see your line is longer, but the shorter one is declared the winner.
And for him to be able to walk out of a position and say, I'm disagreeing with the affairs of this party because this is what I stand for, that for Kenya, and go back to an election midway in the middle of the term against a sitting government like Kanu, you had to be brave.
Yes.
And it teaches you something. And I think it's something that he borrowed even from his father. A government that he created himself, you understand, Jaramogi, and picked everybody. And said, now I need to get this, I'll get Kibaki here, bring him here. Jomo in jail, I want him out. And even force a guy, you know, a lot of people do not know, there's a guy I think from Dia who was actually forced to step aside for Jomo to come in as a member of parliament. And it is again Jaramogi, they had gone I think to a couple of MPs who refused, and then it is Jaramogi who again went to this guy and told him, now you have to step aside for Mzee to come in. And that is the only time out of respect that the guy now agreed to allow Jomo to come in and become an MP and prime minister at that time. So this is a government Jaramogi literally handpicked.
He handpicked it.
Literally went to found James Gishuru somewhere in Ghana there, found Kibaki somewhere in Kampala there. The Burudi Nabwera was a former ambassador, first Kenyan ambassador to America, who's from my home county of Lugari, and we our neighbors there. He once told me that you know how they met Kibaki because he was the minister then, and he had accompanied Jomo for a student, one of those conventions in Kampala. And it is after the conventions when now you are meeting people from your country. That is where he introduced Kibaki to Jaramogi. I said, this is a young man from Kenya, but Kibaki was a junior lecturer then. He works here, is a sharp student. And so Jaramogi took it into mind. So when he came back to Nairobi and he was reorganized in the Kanu National Office, he thought of the young man that he had met in Kampala, and he asked Burudi Nabwera to go get him. And that is how Burundi went to Kampala to bring Kibaki to Nairobi and hired him as an administrator at KANU. And eventually pushed him into office because Kibaki had no money to campaign. He was a regular guy. So his original seat here in Bahati, it was again Jaramogi, literally, you know, putting him through. So for somebody like that to form that kind of government and then say, this government no longer fits what I stand for and resign from that office, it shows you in terms of principle. So it's the kind of reputation you build over the years. So these characters, the likes of Kioni and Eugene Omalwa and Kalonzo
and Mwangi wa Iria,
nobody can tell us what they have stood for in the last 60 years of their lives. And so there's no reason. You know, Fred, I always say, for you to be a leader, you must believe in something. And for you to be followed, the people are following you because they believe in what you believe in. That's why you even have terrorist organizations that are operating, and when they are arrested, and from what we've learned, they always
they have
believe,
something
they believe. And it's because it's being championed by somebody. And they acknowledge and say, that is our leader. And these are criminals. So in any structure, Fred, for you to have a following, you must be somebody who has stood for something. And there are people who believe in what you're believing in.
And maybe David knows some of the things they've stood for.
Now let me tell you. You see, that's why I wanted to tell George. This ticket of Gachagua Kalonzo is a ticket, I don't want to put doom on it, but it is a very hard ticket. You know, he has said it very well. Look at Gachagua. What is his track record? It is a DO somewhere. You know all these things. Then he becomes a member of parliament once.
And then next
then
is
the pockets,
deputy president.
then the pockets. In fact, even being made the deputy president, it is Kibiki who was actually winning in every other thing. But it is because of the muscles in terms of financial. So there is no track record. So look at this. Kioni, no track record. Look at Munya, even if he was there, nothing to show. Look at Wamarwa, even
he's even the worst. And Mwangi wa Iria.
Mwangi wa Iria, let me tell you, that is one guy, even he would spoil it. Even to the extent, even the Mount Kenya, they would bolt out from that party and they actually join Luto the following day. Because there are people who are corrupt. Even EACC, you find Mwangi wa Iria is always a regular visitor. So these are people that we are saying, at the end of the day, these are actually the people. And that's why I told you, Kalonzo has no way out right now. For the time being, he has to stick with Azimio. But I can tell you, because God will give us time to be here in 2026. The time now they start campaigning well, I can tell you, Kalonzo will have moved somewhere else.
Well, that's pretty interesting, looking at how things are going. Well, I just pray that we had leaders that stand for something. Love or hate Raila Odinga, love or hate him, he's the only politician you can say has consistently at least stood for something. Consistently, you almost always know what he stands for. And he has a humongous, almost cultic following that also believes in what he tells them to believe in. Apart from that, I don't think there's any other leader in the country who can brag that. And that's why somebody was telling us that Raila Odinga is the fourth arm of the government. You have the executive, you have the legislative,
judiciary,
and then you have judiciary, and then you have Raila Odinga
as the fourth one.
Because when he does something, all the other arms of government have to toe. And mostly so the executive. When he sneezes, the rest catch a cold.
And they start coughing. And the people have gone home with it. Imagine, who would have imagined would be where we are now politically. And the likes of Come now exiting. They cannot even imagine what happened. And the kind of sentiments they were giving just the other day. Now the person they were tracking down is in status. You understand? Afraid for me, I think.
As we close, very brief.
As we wind up very quickly, is that Raila Odinga will be 80 years in January. God has been very good to him. He has played his role for the last 60 years. And as he exits the political scene and all what he's done and where he's failed and where his victories, there is no doubt of the impact that he's had. But my plea is that to this new generation now, the new leaders that are coming in, is that we can copy something about standing for something in principle, because those are they might not be very popular now, people that stand on their own grounds for what they believe in, like what Martha Karua is alluding to. But my prayer is that this generation of leaders who are coming in must be people that are conscious about the general public, the goodwill, and also something that people can stand in, which is probably the only legacy we can borrow from Raila Odinga.
Your closing comments.
Well, I think we are moving on with Raila Odinga, the fourth arm.
Yes.
And I can tell you, this man, he has actually the love for the country. And one of the statements which...
Is it love for the country or love for interest?
No, even the interest,
Both.
even the country. He is one man, as you said, he has both.
Yes.
In the sense that why he had to do that, he got his own interest, but also he is helping the Kenya in a big way.
True.
Because what actually he said, this is not the way of building the country.
Yeah.
In fact, even for him, he is looking at when the economy, because right now, do you know actually, for the last 1 month or so, the economy has been affected a big deal. And if we continued with this trajectory, I can tell you, we can only lose the country. Sure. And I think there are some times he has to shelve his ambitions so that he can see the country is standing. You can't fight for a country and then destroy it within 1 year.
True. Beautiful. They always say also Kenya is the enigma of African politics. Whatever happens in Kenya ends up affecting Kenya sneezes and the rest of Africa catches a cold. When the Gen Zs went to the streets and demonstrated, well, they gave ideas to other people. And now Nigeria, people have gone to the streets and it looks like the president is having nightmares because of what the Gen Zs there or the people of Nigeria are doing. And so we have a beautiful country. Let's take the positives out of the Gen Z and implement, at the same time, positives from other places and implement. And as the leaders of this country, we pray that they're going to implement this so that our country, the standard of life in Kenya can go high. If that happens, I will give thanks to the Lord. So do have yourself a lovely morning. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you too, Fred.